Hello everyone, I am back with part 2 of our history chapter 12, India after independence. In part 1 we had discussed about the problems which India faced post independence, and then we had discussed about constitution, that how constitution was written and what were the main features of it, and we had ended our first part with the official language. Let's start today's class with discussing about official language. A major discussion in the Constituent Assembly concerning language. Many people felt that English language should no longer be given importance. They argued that its place should be taken by Hindi. However, those who did not speak Hindi had a different opinion. A conclusion was finally reached at, namely that while Hindi would be the official language of India, English language would be used in courts, in services, and for communications between states. Now let's move to our next topic, how were states to be formed? In India, there are many linguistic communities. A linguistic community is a community whose members speak the same language. During the national movement, several of India's linguistic communities expressed the wish to have their own states in independent India. At the time, the Congress agreed to fulfill their wish after India became independent. But the communal violence caused by the religion based on partition of India at the time of independence changed the views of many Congress leaders, including Jawaharlal Nehru and Vallabhbhai Patel. They feared that division of the country along linguistic lines would lead to more violence. The linguistic communities, however, continued to demand their own states. Both Prime Minister Nehru and Deputy Prime Minister Vallabhbhai Patel were against the creation of linguistic states. They said the first and last need of India at present moment is that it should be made a nation. Everything which helps the growth of nationalism has to go forward, and everything which throws obstacles in its face has to be rejected. Now let's see the case of creation of Andhra. The strongest demand came from the Telugu speaking people of the former presidency of Madras. When Congress showed reluctance to meet their demand, they took to agitation. During his campaigns in the region before the 1952 elections, Jawaharlal Nehru was met by protesters holding black flags and shouting anti Congress slogans in the elections of 1952. The Congress fared badly in the region. Around this time, Potti Sriramulu, a Gandhian leader campaigning for the creation of Telugu state, went on a fast unto death. This caused widespread unrest, and when Sriramulu died on 15th December 1952, after fasting 58 days, the situation went out of control. The Congress was forced to create Andhra. It came into existence in October 1953. These are some of the pictures of Sri Ramulu. Now let's move to our another topic, planning for development. At the time of independence, the Indian economy suffered from various problems such as unequal development in different regions, low agricultural production, and food scarcity. Underdeveloped industries and communication facilities, widespread poverty and illiteracy. Let us see what happens or what steps the newborn nation took to overcome these. In 1950, the government set up a planning commission to help design and execute suitable policies for economic development. There was a broad agreement on what was called a mixed economy model. Here, both the state and the private sector would play important and complementary roles in increasing production and generating jobs. Many of the basic and heavy industries are controlled by the government as they involve huge investments and do not always yield matching profits. Now let's learn something about Planning Commission. The Planning Commission of India was established in 1950 with the Prime Minister as its ex officio chairman. Hence Jawaharlal Nehru became the first president of Planning Commission. The Planning Commission defines the country's economic goals and frames policies for the achievement of such goals. It takes stock of country's resources. It also regulates the utilization and distribution of the available resources so as to tackle problems such as poverty, unemployment, price rise, regional imbalances. The Planning Commission has been working through 5-year plans. These plans have laid emphasis mainly on developing basic and heavy industries. In 1951, Jawaharlal Nehru, the Prime Minister of India, presented the first 5-year plan. This focused on the development of industry, land rehabilitation, irrigation, and energy. At present, India is following the 12th 5-year plan. In 1956, when the second 5-year plan was formulated, this focused strongly on the development of heavy industries such as steel and on the building of large dams. This approach had many strong supporters but some vocal critics also. Among the earliest critics were J.C. Kumarappa, himself a member of the Planning Commission, and Madeline Slade, known in India as Miraben. Staunch believers in Gandhiji's ideas campaigned for small and less expensive irrigation system, the use of organic manure and the preservation of natural forests with large variety of trees. Here are some of the pictures of the dams which were built after planning commission. Now let's move on to our another topic, that is foreign policy. A country's foreign policy is regarded as a set of principles, goals, compulsions, and strategies that govern that country's relations with other countries. India, under Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, adopted a foreign policy guided by the principles of peaceful coexistence, disarmament, and non alignment. According to this policy, India respects the independence and sovereignty of all the countries. India strongly believes that people of all nations, religions, and races are equal. India strongly opposes the country in which the government discriminates against people on the basis of their religion, color, race, or class. The Second World War ended in 1945 as it was drawing to a close. An international organization called the United Nations, which was formed to preserve international peace and understanding. This, however, could not ensure good relations between the USA and the USSR, the two nations which had emerged as superpowers after the wars. The mutual relationship between these two nations was marked by deep suspicion and mistrust due to the great difference in their political ideologies. Each of the superpowers entered into alliances with friendly nations to form a powerful military bloc of its own. This year, On 15th August 2020, we have celebrated our 74th Independence Day. How well our country done in this time, and to what extent has it fulfilled the ideals set out in its constitution? Let's discuss the successes and failures. Over the years, there have been regular elections in India. The people have elected representatives of their choice to form the government, and any government that has failed to perform has ultimately been voted out of power. This shows that real power continues to be in the hands of the people, which is a requirement of democracy. One of the directive principles of our constitution set the formation of panchayats as one of the goals of government. Now a law have been passed to make panchayats in rural area compulsory. These local self-government bodies have taken democracy to the grassroots level. Now let's discuss the failures. Despite this success, Indian democracy has its problems. One major problem is the use of vast sums of money to win elections. This has increased corruption. Another problem is that in some areas, a dominant caste or political group often forcibly prevents other castes or political groups from taking part in elections, and voters quite often vote only for the candidates of their own caste. All this means that the best candidate does not necessarily win. In the last few decades, India has shown progress in many fields. However, there is a great deal to be achieved. The greatest challenge before us is poverty. The number that lies below the poverty line are nothing to be proud of. Though untouchability has been made punishable by law, it is still practiced in many parts of India. Gender inequality is still rampant in our country. Efforts have been made in the area of education by way of opening government schools to provide free and compulsory education for all till the democracy level. Another vital challenge that India faces is unemployment. Though India today faces many challenges, the positive side is that it is equipped with a positive attitude to face these challenges and carve a better future for its people. I hope you have understood this chapter. With this, I'm going to conclude the chapter by saying Vande Mataram. And don't forget, we are one. Let us all be proud of our beloved nation. We all have to collectively strive to make India vibrant, strong, and supreme. Take care of yourself. See you soon. All the best, children.